the UK's only Middle East colony.
It was a dirty war where you didn't know where the enemy was, you don't know where the shots or the grenades were coming from, and you had no defence against it.
It was a volcanic eruption that created Aden and its aptly named Crater District. It was a political eruption in the shape of Arab nationalism that drove the British out.
The British colonials wouldn't have left without great resistance and a lot of bloodshed.
Just after completing a massive military base that fell into communist hands, for the UK, a strategic blunder.
Within a few years, when the British had left, people felt very sad and they wished they could come back again.
Today, an impoverished Aden welcomes the British again.
Oh, تمام ونص اليوم. شكرا.
This is Marla Main Street. For the colonial British, in these apartments, Aden was a hot but cushy posting until the insurgency began in 1963. After that, it was known as Murder Mile. I lived here as the last BBC Aden correspondent. When I arrived in late 1967, the Arab terrorist campaign of killing British civilians and soldiers was in full swing. So the British commander insisted that I was given a revolver. Finally, the two rival Arab nationalist movements turned on each other in a fight to inherit power. The British simply looked the other way. They didn't intervene, and hundreds died. And then the British scrambled over the horizon, abandoning their allies and their colony. Whatever the disasters of the past, the imprint of 130 years of British rule is still visible. Though Aden today is threadbare, and the old entrepreneurial instincts have all but vanished. Once the world's media camped out here reporting Britain's difficulties. The last guest left years ago, but somehow the royal portrait survived the revolutionary purge after the British withdrawal. That's Iran, isn't it? On the border of Iran and Turkey, I guess. The man who pulled the plug on Aden was Dennis Healey, the Labour Defence Secretary, who rolled up the imperial map east of Suez with the colony first to go.
There was no alternative to getting out of Aden. Whether we could have got out with less bloodshed, I think again, by the time we were there, it was too late.
Aden was Britain's military headquarters for operations in both the Middle East and Africa. For 130 years, the colony remained politically docile. As this became one of the world's busiest ports, Adenis prospered.
Life was very easy, and people moved about very freely with all the British families. We, being very young students, we used also to go to the Isthmus School and mix with the British students there. It was so easy, I mean, mixing up Yemenis, Adenis with Britishers. There was no class differences at that time.
But then Arab nationalism began to subvert British rule in the early 60s. The families of the huge British garrison found themselves having to stockpile essential supplies as militant trade unions disrupted normal life. For the first time, Britain seemed vulnerable and fatally lacking reliable intelligence because Arab nationalists had infiltrated the British-trained Aden security forces. Demonstrators, inspired by President Nasser of Egypt, demanded independence. They denounced British attempts to create what was called the South Arabian Federation in a doomed forced marriage between the colony and its outlying sultanates. Amid rising terrorism and a state of emergency, the old British policy of using minimum force came under stress. Units in the Aden police and Arab army mutinied, ambushing their departing colonial mentors.
A total of 23 British troops were killed as a result of the mutinies and some civil servants.